Hello and welcome. This is not D&D, which is brought to you by EN World Live. So I'm your host, Jessica, and with me this week we have Rich from Hatchling Games. Rich, thanks for joining us.
Oh, pleased to meet you.
So if you do need subtitles for the live stream, auto captions are on YouTube and EN World Live. I am learning, but I can't do the whole interview in sign language. And if you're listening to the podcast, you'll be listening to the podcast, obviously. But yeah, Rich, thanks so much for coming on. Today we'll be talking about your game. Did the wrong thing there. INSPIRISLES, which I was so excited to hear about because it's a game that focuses on storytelling, empathy, and obviously deaf awareness as well. So we'll get into talking to that a little bit later in the show. If you do have any questions, please do ask in the chat and we'll try and answer them live on stream if we know the answers. But Rich, before we dig into talking about the game, I wanted to talk about kind of you and your history with role-playing games. So what was the first game you remember playing, first role-playing game?
Well, the whole sort of journey with Hatchlings Games started with a teen D&D group in my local community. So I run it with. So we moved house a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, and the first thing I did is I went to a community centre and said, "Do you run role-playing games?" So I'd love to start that. And the kids in the local school, there was a big group of them that wanted a group to play Dungeons and Dragons. So that's how it all started, really. I'd started playing Dungeons and Dragons like 5 years before that during my degree, and then way back in the 80s.
Classic then. So started with D&D and then have moved on to creating kind of other games. It's fantastic. So gaming is something you do with a lot of young people. I guess, was that a bit of the inspiration of INSPIRISLES and making this game then?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was about half the entire inspiration. Yeah, okay. So like I said, I've been running this teen D&D group for 2 years before COVID struck, basically. And the kids there were just encouraging me to make something for myself. And at the same time, simultaneously, I was working for a deaf charity. I've been there for like a decade at that point. We do a lot of outreach with like local businesses about British Sign Language. And trying to like narrow that language gap in the community. So I woke up one morning, I thought, what an amazing combination D&D or role-playing games would be with sign language learning. And that's how it all came about, really. But I realized very quickly that I couldn't just transplant sign language learning into the 5e rule set. So that's how I developed my own system, my own mechanics, and my own setting.
So this is what started it all. So tell us a little bit about the game and the setting. So obviously, as I kind of gave the game away, saying the game is about storytelling, empathy, and kind of deaf awareness, focusing on cooperation. But if you could give us kind of the pitch and the summary of what the game is, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So you the players are Pendragon. So you're the descendants of Arthur and Guinevere Pendragon, and you're kind of sent back to the British Isles, but it's kind of like a Fey version of it. And you've got to basically collect belief and oppose disbelief to heal the world tree. That's actually the center of the sort of like realm in Avalon. And you do that by learning the elements and learning to like manipulate them and cast them as spells. And that's done through shaping, which is our version of actual sign language learning, as you see in the images.
So I think you'd mentioned you have like information about learning British Sign Language and American Sign Language, because obviously different languages, so it's different there. But how does shaping actually work? So if you're somebody like me that's new and wants to learn sign language, what is that going to look like in the game?
So it's like a really like organic, progressive sort of like system. So you start off with the basic deaf awareness, like hand shaping techniques and like things like you wouldn't normally think about, like waving instead of clapping at the table if you celebrate like a critical hit or something.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So and then you start by creating a character with the usual name and pronouns and different things, and like I said, pick an element. And then with that first initial character creation, you'll start learning the alphabet immediately with your name. So you think spell your name. So it's Rich.
Okay.
in BSL and the same in ASL.
Mhm.
And then as you progress, so you do the finger spelling for the fire, say that's your element, you pick at the
Mhm.
beginning. As you progress through levels, you start to use the actual signs for the elements, and you start to combine into grammar and like things like WH questions like where, when, who, where. And eventually start to have like minor conversations. So it's
Mhm.
essentially as you progress through the game as a group, your sign language learning is meant to improve.
Amazing. I love that. I saw this then because you did some crowdfunding for this game. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was yeah, because I took a chance. I thought
Mhm.
I've got nothing to lose, so and Kickstarter sounds like it could be an opportunity to fund a project like a passion project.
Mhm.
And I launched it and I wanted £1,000. So initially it was funny because we were just going to tie all the material to the British Sign Language Association. So
Mhm.
all we're going to say is go to this website and you can learn all BSL. But because it
Mhm.
raised 3,000% more than we expected,
Yeah.
we got to do all our like custom art and all our consultancy and everything. So we get to make the game like really like vibrant and appealing for young people, especially.
Amazing. And the target audience is like you saying in the games you play young people, but this game isn't specifically for young people. It's for kind of all ages. Is that right?
Mhm. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, totally all ages. I mean, yeah, I mean, if if it was aimed at children, basically, it would have been difficult to fund it on Kickstarter because the kids can't go on Kickstarter. So,
Sure.
it's it's enjoyed by all ages. Yeah, exactly. And there was a range of people that backed it. There's people that are passionate about the sort of premise behind it and the kind of intentions. There are
Mhm.
people who are obviously like parents of children. They had like a big family and they wanted to learn at home.
Mhm.
There were even people at homeschooling because of
Oh,
COVID,
right.
obviously.
Yeah.
And then the rest were just like people I'd met on Twitter and that community. So it was brilliant.
Fantastic. Great. So you talked a little bit about the character sheet and how you're going to start by learning sign language by learning to kind of spell your name, spell the element you have. So we talked a little bit about that. I've got the
Hmm.
character sheet up on screen. Could you talk us through the other parts of building a
Hmm.
character in the game and what that involves?
Yeah, so you pick a name and then you pick it once you've picked an element. So we sort of encourage people not to squabble about it. So if someone's got a particular leaning between fire, earth, air, and water, then we get them to make first choice.
And what
And
are
then
the differences between those elements? Like when I'm choosing one of
Mhm.
those, what does that mean for my character and in the game?
Well, a few things. So obviously, first they interact differently. So obviously, fire dominates earth, earth dominates air, and air dominates water. So that's used in
Mhm.
tests, and especially in the duels, which are kind of like these one-to-one sort of like battles with the
Mhm.
elements. And then obviously you nominate a leader for a test, and
Mhm.
say you're against an earth shaper, like an
Mhm.
NPC or like a creature, then you put your fire shaper up first.
Sure.
So they got mechanical benefit then, but
Mhm.
beyond that, it's just literally you can use the elements at any level you want, at any invention you want.
Okay.
So our first test in the game is a fishing test where you've got to get a golden trout out of a lake.
Lovely.
So and you've got to do that by utilizing all four elements if you can.
Mhm.
So some people go around the outside of the lake with air and kind of bring the fish into the center, sort of a catch point. Other people, one person or a group made an earthenware dish out of fire and earth and kind of lifted it out with air on
Okay,
like
nice.
so like this endless things. We didn't want to limit it to like a spell list. We're
Mhm.
just kind of saying like whatever you can use, however you can use your elements, can give you a mechanical benefit and a dice advantage. If that makes sense.
Amazing. So it's about very much about creative problem solving then.
Yes, 100%. Not really any limits. We're trying to make it quite rules light, so it's just like whatever you can imagine, basically.
Amazing.
Another group were like going across the countryside on ponies, and they kind of had
Mhm.
a little bit of like a PvP battle about a race, and they were kind of
Okay.
giving themselves bonuses with like air behind the horse and things, and kind of bringing up the ground around the horse's legs. So yeah, it's
Amazing.
lots of stuff you can do.
Uh, well, thank you for letting me interrupt you about the elements on that. But so we can go
Mhm.
back to the character sheet. So as you were saying, we've got
Yeah.
the elements there, but I'll let you carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so once you've picked an element, that the element's linked to one of the inspired, which are kind of like the
Mhm.
gods of the world, really. But
Okay.
they're not really like deities. They kind of live in the communities. So
Okay.
one owns like a forge, one owns like a bathhouse, one owns a vineyard and the other owns like a pirate ship, and they kind of
Okay.
like go around the world, and you can kind of interact with them.
Okay.
And then when you were like ancient times, when you were like the
Mhm.
first Pendragon, you kind of
Mhm.
had you were part of a community called a Friends, and these are
Mhm.
kind of like the races or the species of the
Mhm.
INSPIRISLES, and
Okay.
that's how you meet them. You kind of have a memory about them, and
Okay.
then you associate with them. So you get bonuses when you meet that community in the game.
Mhm. Amazing.
Um,
So
and then
that's
the
the
rest
kind
of
of the
items.
yes. Okay. Yeah.
So the items, you pick 5 items, and they can be from where you were before on Earth, and they're the things that you level up in the game. So you spend
Okay.
belief on
Great.
them. They kind of like
Okay.
they give you dice advantages.
Fantastic. So in the game, so I can see there's like kind of 4 different levels to your item, and you say you spend belief to kind of. So how would I get belief in the game? How does mechanically that work?
Loads of ways. So basically, whenever
Okay.
whenever you whenever you whenever you fight disbelief, so whenever you fight the negative energy,
Mhm.
which is kind of spread from like bloodshed, like greed,
Mhm.
like corruption, you earn belief, and it kind of gets drawn into your items that you wear at all times.
Okay.
So they can either
Mhm.
be like things you wear or things you carry. So belief's drawn into them like trinkets essentially, or like
Mhm.
containers. And
And
then
does
yeah, Karen, yeah.
no, no, carry on. I was gonna interrupt you with the question, but I'll jump in. You'll probably answer it as you speak.
Yeah, and then you can either forge weapons individually, so like
Mhm.
to upgrade them essentially, which gives you dice bonuses, or you can accumulate all the belief as a group and
Mhm.
go to the world tree and then heal it to level up, essentially. So there's 2 ways of kind of like progressing.
Nice, I like it. So and I can see that element focused on cooperation, like you mentioned before as well. So with the items, are they is again, is that quite open and something that you can just pick and make up, or is there like a list and guidance in the book or
Yeah, so I'm quite well. There's all rolling tables. Well, actually, there's even a name rolling table,
okay.
or like gender neutral names. And then there's
Mhm.
we're really proud of this thing called the sanctuary.
Mhm.
It's in the cabin. It's like your kind of hub area.
Yeah.
And what you do is you imagine like a place back home that you found really comforting and really like um just really positive memories about. And it could be anything.
Mhm.
It could be anything from a bedroom to like your grandfather's workshop, the swimming changing rooms, anything like that made you give you a nice like sense of kind of relaxation and calm. And
Okay.
then that's transported like through dimensional door to this cabin.
Okay,
So when you
great.
go there, you'll feel completely at home in this place. And then as part of that room or that space, the
Mhm.
5 items are associated with it.
Okay, great. So and again, you say that could be it's you're very free with it, so it's very much about creativity. So people there are lists of tables to help them, but you
Yeah,
can just have whatever. What
absolutely
sort of
anything.
things what sort of things have people picked in games that you've seen then? Because I imagine there's some fun stuff you encounter in playtesting or watching people play.
Well, it's particularly hilarious because like when I do play tests or when I do like when I
Mhm.
run the game, I try to really encourage people to use the tables because it's a bit chaotic. So you can get anything from like conkers to like actual working cameras. So we can take Polaroid photos and
Oh,
uh,
nice.
like things like typical things like journals you can get, and also stuff you can wear. So like like a wig. Someone picked a wig the other session and
Hey,
had
why
this really
not?
amazing. So but anything basically. So you can either select it. It just has to be light enough to carry at all times
Mhm.
and or wear basically.
Fantastic. And thinking about the stories you mentioned one of the stories, well, the challenges in the beginning is like getting the golden fish. Did you mention? So
Hmm.
it sounds like that was I was going to ask about the stories that you tell here because not all of it is based in combat like D&D. From what I understand, it's not all about go and fight the big bad. So could you tell us a bit about the sort of stories and challenges that players would experience in the game?
Yeah, so they're called questing days basically,
Hmm.
and again, it's we're trying to have a lot of variety with it. So what the system we've created is essentially based on 6 archetypes. So there's like
Okay.
sword, shield, smarts, speed and survival. And what you do is you pick a different combination of them to create a questing day. So say something like, I don't know if Lord of the Rings Helm's Deep is like this big battle in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And so if you wanted to recreate that in INSPIRISLES, you'd have like 6 sword tests basically. And these are broken down into like little challenges. So, but it would be more of an extended kind of like battle. And then, but if you want, we try to encourage like a combination of stuff. So like, you know, like smarts for like puzzles, speed for like a timed test, survival if you're out in the wilderness or the environment, it's quite harsh. And then you get a nice like pattern of kind of like an adventure then for those combinations. But it's really easy to create them as well. So people as young as 15 are doing it at the moment in American schools, and they come up with some amazing sort of like questing days.
Questing days, I love that. So I guess, like you said, that's almost like advice for somebody if they're looking to run the game for their friends. Because what's the name for the game master in this as well? You have a
Grail guide.
The Grail guide, that's the one. I'd forgotten it there. So they have the Grail guide. So that's kind of like advice for them of how to run a game. What other sort of advice or recommendations do you have for people trying out this game and being a Grail guide for the first time?
Well, first and foremost, you're all meant to learn together. So we're very much believing that every person at a table is kind of like equal and kind of like learning from fresh. So it actually runs best if no one knows any sign language at the beginning.
Okay,
so you're
perfect.
all kind of learning organically from the beginning, like through the alphabet, numbers, and then greetings, which are kind of like adjacent to the gaming space. You know, stuff that you do when you arrive at the group, like how, you know, good morning, all these things, how are you? And then as you progress as a Grail guide, learning the game, and as the players, then obviously all your sign language improves at the same time. Other things are like really kind of simple mechanics, like a calamity table, basically, where so if the players had enough disbelief, then then the Grail guide just refers to a table where it's like accumulated, and it sets off a kind of like a milestone of like calamity, basically. So something really calamitous happens in the world at that moment, and the Pendrangons have to resolve it immediately. You have to drop whatever they're doing and go and resolve it.
What sort of things are calamities, for example?
Well, the trolls might build a bridge over like a town, so you have to kind of smash it down. Or
amazing.
Things like the questing beast can appear, which is like an Arthurian creature, mythological creature, but basically it will sort of stalk the group across the British Isles, and kind of and it will stop them. It will drain their belief from them. It's quite severe.
So obviously the opposite of what we want in this game. So great. So the good news, if you're going to be running this game, you don't have to feel like you know sign language. You can be learning with your players at the same time. That's good and reassuring to know. You've got a lot of guidance, it seems, in there about kind of questing days as well. And like you said, it seems like it's a system that is quite approachable for players and for someone to run for the first time in its design. So
yeah, it's very beginner friendly. It's very beginner friendly. It's got all about how to role play as well, and things like, you know, like the first person role playing or the second person role playing, all sorts of things like this. It's also the sign language learning is not tied to leveling, which is actually quite important, because some people will not want to or be able to do sign language physically. So we haven't tied it to any player leveling, character leveling rather.
So, well,
it's optional. It's optional.
Yeah. I noticed on your website as well, you have like some overlays. So for people that are doing actual plays and things like that, are there any actual play streams that you've seen that you'd like point people to recommend? Because I know some people really enjoy learning through kind of watching, or is that something you've got planned to do a bit later?
No, it's actually being run right now. Not tonight, but tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
By Girls Run These Worlds, like the award-winning actual play. Like
amazing. Okay, great.
So they've done 5 episodes now, and there's 2 more left. So Tuesday evenings, and they're doing BSL and ASL. So some of the players are
fantastic.
So mixing up, and then on the actual play, they've got the alphabet coming up, so that the people watching it, obviously the viewers, can start to learn at home. I'm really pleased with
Amazing.
what they've done. They found it really fun. It's also quite humorous, which I like. So
Mhm.
I like humorous streams.
Yes, definitely. That's why I thought I'd ask about that, because I know some people learn best by like watching actual plays and things like that. So sometimes it gives people the confidence to be like, oh no, I could probably play this and have a go at doing it there. So kind of talking about INSPIRISLES, so obviously that did very well on Kickstarter with the crowdfunding. And you've got plans to kind of expand the world. We're moving into kind of Overisles now. Could you talk a little bit about Overisles and talk through what that is?
Yeah, so Overisles is the first campaign setting. So like
Mhm,
obviously with Dungeons and Dragons, you have the core rule books, and then you have
mhm,
something like Curse of Strahd or like Forgotten Realms.
mhm,
So Overisles is our first campaign setting, which is
mhm.
essentially like 2022 floating islands. So the
Okay.
Pendragons have to head up above the mainland and kind of like again tackle Disbelief up there to stop these floating islands from like descending to the mainland and crushing, destroying the kingdom. And with this, you get to kind of like ride these giant herons called nimbus birds, and you get to
Amazing.
the sign language is extended with emotions now and with signs in flight. So one of them is kind of like an emotion sheet, so you learn about like how the bird feels, and it's kind of about
Okay.
nurturing then. And then the second one is when you're in flight and you're sort of communicating with your other Pendragon mates from a distance. So that's why you use sign language in the air.
Oh
Um,
yeah, of course.
yeah, so that's kind of that. That blew me away with the funding.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
well, because we reinvested all the money from INSPIRISLES crowdfund into the game and making it really
Mhm,
like accessible and like really visually kind of appealing. And obviously people I built a sort of like following up over that time between the crowdfunds, and
mhm.
Overalls did really well because we launched the core game with the campaign setting.
Fantastic. So people could pick up both and join in from the beginning there.
Yeah, so if you bought Overalls, you got the core game for free as a PDF.
Oh, nice. Always good.
Yeah.
Um, so is this kind of setting and world something you plan to kind of expand on and continue growing in the future as well?
I want to do one more game
Yeah.
called Under Isles, or rather
Cool.
appropriately. And as you
Yeah.
can imagine, it's set in the Under Isles, which is like a region of the game, which is kind of like the
Mhm.
underworld. It's where all the dragons sort of dwell, and it's going to be like
Mhm.
a massive dungeon crawl, basically.
Amazing. And I
Um,
imagine that'll be crowdfunded again as well.
yeah, so that'll be next year, I think.
Oh, exciting. So with crowdfunding, I know some people watching or listening might be have an idea for their own game, wanting to kind of go that same route. What kind of learnings would you be able to share with people, or any kind of recommendations or guidance you give to people looking to crowdfund their role playing game?
Um, you need to build the page as soon as possible and launch a pre-launch kind of live page
Hmm.
as soon as possible, because you need to build a following way in advance. I would recommend
Hmm.
at least 3 months, but maybe longer to be guaranteed, because you need a certain amount of followers before you launch. I think really just to guarantee
Hmm.
that initial gain and push. I always get a cover done, and if it's for Kickstarter, it's by
Hmm.
a 16:9 piece of art, and it's got to be
Hmm.
evocative. It's got to kind of like kind of represent the game and its themes. And then beyond that, I would say just keep marketing it really on social media, whatever platform you use, really keep spreading the word
Hmm.
on it. Don't hold things back. So don't think that keeping art behind for like a big reveal is going to make a positive change, because it won't. You just want to give everything out and be transparent about everything and share what you can. That's what I would say. And just go for it. Just,
Hmm.
there's not really much to lose, to be honest. It
Just your
is
time.
hard. It's
Yeah.
time, yeah. I mean, it is
Mm-hmm.
hard. It is hard work, and it is a bit of a stressful
Mm-hmm.
month if you're doing it on Kickstarter or something.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, it's got the potential to kickstart literally your project and your career.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. So if people are interested in, buying the books, because I think they're available now, so people can pick them up now. Is that right? Yeah.
yeah, so Inspirals is available from our
Mhm.
website in the UK,
Mhm.
or you can get it from Indie Press Revolution in the US. Hardcovers and PDFs, doing quite well on there. And then overalls you can get on PDF now, and we're just about to ship it physically from the printers. So that'll be ready to the public in a couple of months.
Amazing. So you're in the midst of fulfillment and doing all that fun things, which is,
yeah, I mean, that's not the fun side of this.
That's why you become a game publisher, isn't it? To talk about freight and yeah, definitely. Okay, great, fantastic. And I guess that'll be a good place to go to get information on future campaigns and things that you'll be doing for Under Isles and things like next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, the website's got everything. We're going to keep updating the website with kind of the extra games that are coming in. We've got Cryptid Creeks as well and Dragon Dowser, loads of stuff happening. But yeah, I'm trying to juggle it all.
And I'm sure you make it look effortless, I'm sure. So we're coming up near to the kind of end of our time. Is there anything you'd like to share about INSPIRISLES or overalls that we haven't had a chance to talk about, or anything you want to brag about or mention about the system?
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that all the sign language material comes with video tutorials, which is essential because you can't learn much just from static image. So my friends Rajni in the UK and Katie in the US have done a comprehensive video tutorials, which you can find on a website once you bought the PDF or the hardcover.
Fantastic. So that's a really great way to learn. I think I saw that on the site as well. And there is a quick start guide on the site as well, on the link that I shared. So if you want to kind of have a little preview and see what it's all about before kind of buying the PDF, that's all there on the website as well. Well, fantastic. There is another question I have for you, though, that I ask everyone, which is, do you have any recommendations for any other TTRPGs? And the rules are, it can't be Dungeons and Dragons, obviously, and it can't be a game that you've made, because we've spent the last half hour talking about your game.
Yep, I got loads, but I'd like to mention my good friend Scriv the Bard. Their game Bard RPG is it crowdfunded last year, and it's about to come out on digitally and physically. So and that's gonna be a wonderful game. It's about storytelling and archetypes, and it's for all ages again. And we've paralleled each other for our kind of careers, so it's really nice to see them release their big first game.
Amazing. Well, that's a great recommendation there. So that'll be available for people to, if they miss the Kickstarter crowdfunding, they can pick that up later.
It'll be ready soon, about a month.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well, good to know. Well, I think that was all the questions I had today. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing the game, and I'm really excited to hear that all the books are shipping. And yeah, next year when you're crowdfunding, if you want to come back on the show and talk about the next game of Under Isles, you'd be more than welcome to come back.
Cool. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And to everyone listening or watching, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another game to talk to you about. Thank you very much, and goodbye.